everyone to a training on how to conduct effective and meaningful virtual meetings using the platform of Microsoft Teams. My name is Gretchen Eikema, and I'm here with my colleague Ann McAuliffe. Today, we're hoping to provide you the basics of how to conduct a virtual meeting in Microsoft Teams and how to drive engagement with the individuals attending. We're beginning today with what we call a welcome screen. And I'm not sure if many of you have had the need to use this yet. However, a welcome screen really helps people feel welcomed individually and as a group when entering a virtual meeting. It also makes sure people get set up technically and set some upfront expectations for the meeting. You may see this more commonly used for group meetings rather than one-on-one, but that still doesn't mean it wouldn't be just as effective to have a fun welcome sign or a checklist for a participant you're meeting with. It certainly helps set the stage and the intent for the meeting, along with showing people how you are there to support them in this virtual environment that may be foreign to them. We often call this creating the container. Examples of things you can put on the welcome screen that set the stage and show how you can best support the individuals are on the slide. They include connect to your audio and your video. Say hello in the chat. Tell us where you're joining from today and what's the weather like outside. Close out your other applications to help you focus on your learning. Practice using the raise hand button and the other emoticons. And of course, let us know if you have any tech needs. We're all here to learn about and talk about how to conduct effective virtual meetings. And one of the most important things you can do upfront in any virtual meeting is to check in with your participants. So that means ensuring everyone is connected to the Teams platform with their audio and through their computer. It entails asking each person, can you hear me? Can you see me? Another important step is to let people know that closed captioning is available as applicable, and make sure that people know how to enable it and access this feature in Teams. Technology is great when it works, but we all know too well there can be hiccups when it doesn't work. And typically in these virtual meeting spaces, audio is where the most issues come up. So just do a quick check-in to make sure people are connected to all that's needed for effective communication. As we all gather in our virtual meetings, it's important to know who else is at this virtual table with us. On this slide is an example of an exercise for people in the meeting to introduce themselves and welcome each other. If you are hosting a meeting, you might want to read through this intro exercise, model it, and then make sure to say, I'm finished when you're done. Then the intent is to go around the virtual table and ask everyone to do the same, one person at a time. To help keep things moving quickly, as a host, you can establish the order of introductions in the chat or ask each person, once they introduce themselves, to name the next one in line. And these are just some really nice strategies to pursue in providing structure and expectations to the meeting as you kick it off. So to model this introduction exercise, here's what you do. When it's your turn, you'll briefly introduce yourself by turning on your video, if it's not already on, unmute your microphone, say your name, where you are sitting, something you're looking forward to, and when you're all done, another nice tip is to say, I'm finished. In virtual meetings especially, it can be hard to know when someone has completed speaking or they're just pausing to think. By using a simple statement like I'm finished or I'm complete, it just lets everyone know that your turn is done and the conversation can flow smoothly. So in the chat now, please introduce yourself in this order: Gretchen, Emily, Marianne, Alyssa, Angela, Jackie, Sarah, and Anne.
As we start this training, we wanted to call attention to examples of guidelines or expectations that you might want to consider for establishing your online virtual meeting. We feel these are important things for welcoming your virtual meeting participants and letting individuals know how to be present and engage in the meeting. So feel free to use this, if you like, as you run your virtual meetings. By doing so, you will find people may be more focused, better know what is expected of them, and you may experience more success during the meeting as a result. So as you see on this slide, here are some guidelines to consider putting on the slides for your meetings. The first is actively participate. You will get the most out of this meeting if you engage and contribute. Second, this is a safe space to learn, ask questions, and support one another. Please close out your email, Skype, and other programs so that you can focus here. Be prepared to contribute. Need technical assistance? Reach out to the host or the meeting facilitator. And if you agree, go ahead and raise your hand. In addition to setting guidelines or expectations for virtual meetings, there is another strategy that you may or may not be aware of. However, it may help you to engage and keep your participants focused in a meeting. It is called transitions. So what are transitions? Well, transitions are activities that help center individuals. They allow people to be more focused and settled into conversations that you might be approaching or having. They allow people to screen out the other distractions around them so that they can be present for the meeting they are in. Examples of transitions are things like breathing and relaxation exercises, having people express a gratitude statement, sharing a poem, or getting into a brief body-centered type of work. A breathing and relaxation exercise could be as simple as breathing in and out as you trace the outside structure of your fingers one at a time, going up to the tip and down to the curve. Neuroscience tells us it only takes 60 seconds to course correct or refocus. So having a plan for those 60 seconds is key. You might even notice that transitions can set a tone that is calmer, quieter, and removes us all from the hurriedness of normal conversation. It can also reduce some of the tension that happens from time to time on certain topics, and it really gets to the heart of the matter, which is the relationship and what is important to and for people. One other important thing to think about as you set up, organize, and run your virtual meetings is to take into account elements of the convening wheel model. The convening wheel is designed to address the philosophy and spirit behind what you are trying to achieve in any meeting, whether that be in person or virtual. The numbered items in this slide are the key elements or features you should consider to achieve this. In looking at these key elements of the convening wheel, it might sound familiar to all of you, whether that be the person-centered methodology you use in your practice, or just what comes naturally to you in your existing counseling techniques and skills. We feel these are important items to incorporate when planning and hosting one-on-one, team, or group meetings. I will call out several of these items as examples. The first is clarifying intent. That's number 2 on the model. That means having an agenda and purpose. This is really important to tell the people why they are attending the meeting and sharing accountability in getting to the decisions and actions you need to take. The invitation, number 3. With the invitation, of course, it is vital to know who should be invited and set the context and stage for the meeting in that invitation. Then once your meeting is set, it is vital to find ways to create a space for engagement. We call that creating the container, number 5. This involves making people feel safe, hearing all voices, which is number 6 on the model. And all of that is really important for having essential and meaningful conversations with an atmosphere of trust. Finally, commitment to action, as you see up here on number 9 of the model, that entails collectively agreeing, determining responsibilities, and being accountable for the defined actions and moving those items forward. Now we know this sounds like a lot, but we wanted to reference the philosophy and spirit that your meetings should have to help them be productive and successful.
Now, after sharing some of the philosophy, guidelines and expectations, strategies and best practices to consider when holding or hosting virtual meetings, we're going to move now to the more technical aspects of running a virtual meeting. Today, the platform we're going to be spending time showing and discussing is Microsoft Teams. It does appear to be that Teams is one of the most used virtual platforms by VRS staff, along with Zoom. And you can learn more about Zoom in the Zoom virtual training available on SharePoint. Our focus in this training is to go over the main features that you need to know in Teams, but there are certainly others you might benefit from learning more about. Our goal overall is just to get you started in becoming familiar with this platform so you can use it for better virtual meetings. So the main features that we'll be reviewing for this training are listed on this agenda slide. There are 6 of them. They are audio, video, chat, share, participants, and more actions. Some of you might be aware of these features or use them when hosting a Teams meeting, and some of you may not. However, we believe by becoming more familiar with them, you can begin to build your confidence and competence with running a virtual meeting. As we introduce these 6 main features in Teams, it's important to show you where some of these key features show up. And they're on the Microsoft Teams toolbar, which you see here. We will be going into each of these features in more detail in the following slides.
So let's start with audio. In Microsoft Teams, starting your audio is pretty straightforward. Once you click on the link to join the meeting from your invite, your screen should show up and look like this top picture where you see my picture. All you do is click on that Join Now button, which should be front and center on your screen. You then want to ensure your microphone is on, which is indicated by the toggle being on the far right of the mic and showing the color purple. Once you have joined the meeting, usually the audio sets up pretty automatically to your devices. So typically you don't have to set your devices or test them out. Though, if there is a concern and something isn't working with the audio when you join your meeting, you can go under the custom setup item that you see here on that slide on the bottom, or sometimes it'll show up if you've been in Teams before as the PC mic and speaker button, as you see in that upper screenshot. By clicking on this button, you can double check that your speakers and microphones are connected to the right devices. We will talk more about modifying or testing your audio devices when we discuss the device settings feature, which we'll speak to later in this training.
Next, let's move on to video. And this one can make a lot of people nervous since they don't typically like being on camera, but this is a great way to increase engagement in your virtual space. Teams is very similar to Zoom in that it has a camera icon and you just click on it to activate your video. In Teams, it's a toggle and it turns purple when your camera is on. To turn it off, you just click the same button. Another helpful tip is to make sure that your camera window on your laptop is slid over and it's open. Teams also has the capability to pin a video. To pin a video, just simply select the video you want to pin, right-click on it, and select the Pin Video option.
Now moving on to chat. For your meetings, chat is a great way to engage people. In fact, it is probably the most common feature used for engagement, and it can be a very effective approach for hearing all of the voices of the individuals in your meeting. To find the chat, you can see on the toolbar, shown here, there's that little speech bubble to the right of the raised hand. If you click on it, a meeting chat panel opens up to the right. Then to send a chat, all you have to really do is type your text in that type a new message field, as you see here. One thing to know about the chat in Teams is that chats often go to everyone. So there really is an option to send a private chat. That's not available. So your message will be visible to everyone. So that is something to just make sure to kind of pay attention to and note. As we said before, for the purpose of engagement though, chat is really a great way for people to ask questions, provide input, and ensure people are focusing their attention on the meeting through the use of just simple and brief interactions.
Share is the next feature. To share something from your desktop or laptop, all you have to do is click on the arrow up or the share button. You can then pick screen number 1 from your desktop if you want to navigate and share various documents or browsers on your computer during your meeting, or select under Windows one document or screen to share. Teams will show you all of the applications that you have open as options. One thing to note is if you choose to share your desktop, be sure that all of your other notifications or apps that you don't want people to see are closed. We certainly all have had examples where someone didn't do this and their private messages showed up in front of the whole group, whether that be notes from their kids, their parents, their friends. Yikes! So think about your meetings that you hold and what kind of content you would share, or what have you already been sharing while using your virtual platform.
The participants or people button in Teams is up next, and it's another great feature that you as a host should really pay attention to. You can see the participant or people button is circled here on that toolbar. When you click on it, again, it shows up on the right-hand side in a panel. Once opened, you can see who is in the meeting currently, who is invited, who accepted or declined the meeting. On our slide, you can see in this meeting, there are 2 people there, and you're waiting on one person yet that has been invited. One thing that is nice about the people panel is that you can invite people to the meeting right on the spot, either through adding their name from the state address book or by sharing the link, which you can see as an option to the right of the Invite Someone text field. It is true that some external people may not have access to a Teams account or the Teams app to participate in a meeting. So this is certainly always something you want to test out before inviting someone. Also, though it is helpful to invite people on the spot, giving people advance notice about the meeting is really valuable to allow everyone to feel more prepared to engage. As a host, the people panel also allows you to monitor or control who is muted and who is not. Sometimes people might need help being shown how to do this, so you might be asked to assist. You do have rights to remove a participant from a meeting if need be. Sometimes that's just rolling over their name and you'll right-click and have that option. The people panel also provides a nice way for you to do attendance at the meeting, or use the list to call out people for introductions or chat contributions. Other benefits of the people panel are that you can see if someone in the meeting is raising their hand to ask a question, make a comment, or as we said, just ask for assistance. We will talk more about the raised hand feature in just a little bit, but on the toolbar, you can see the raise the hand option is to the left of the chat feature. When someone clicks on it, this hand shows up in the people panel next to the person's name. So it is important as a host to watch for any raised hands so that you can pay attention to your participants' needs.
The other features we want to show you are under the More Actions option, which provides a lot of nice personalized options to both you and your meeting participants. In Microsoft Teams, More Actions shows up as the 3 dots or ellipses. You can see these on the slide. When you click on these 3 dots, a number of different options appear. We will briefly go through each of them and show you how they can help enhance your meeting and create a better user experience.
The first under the More Options is the device setting, which you see at the top of the list here. When clicking on this, it opens up on the right side, just as all of the other panels do. And we referenced device settings just briefly when discussing the audio features. This feature is available to ensure that individuals attending the meeting have their audio input and output devices set up and they're in camera enabled. With device settings, you can test your audio by speaking into your mic. The volume bar will then increase or decrease if it's working. You can also make sure your camera is set up to the right camera device. Here, you can see on the screen, that device is the integrated webcam device.
Meeting notes is another great feature and option. You can keep track of some of the highlights of your meeting that everyone can access. You can bring up the meeting notes panel and simply just type in the text. Once the meeting is complete, these notes are automatically saved to that calendar event and the chat.
Background effects or settings is another nice feature to help people feel secure about their privacy at home or whatever setting they are in. With this feature, it allows people the option to blur their backgrounds, pick from a standard visual background in Teams, or select your own picture saved on your own computer. All you have to do to activate the background setting is click on the Show Background Effects item up here. Once doing so, you can click on the picture that you want from the Teams options, or you can click on that plus to add a new picture to your options by selecting something from your computer. You do have the option to preview your backgrounds by just clicking on Preview before sharing. When you're ready to share the virtual background, you just click on Apply. One nice thing about this virtual background option is you get to know people just a little bit better based on the backgrounds they choose. You can ask them to add a picture of their favorite vacation, outdoor scene, or character, whatever works. So that might help create conversation in your meeting and assist with getting people to engage.
Closed captioning is another important feature for individuals who need this as an accommodation. However, it can also be helpful for all learners or meeting attendees to clarify what they're hearing. Each attendee has control over turning on or off this captioning option. You just have to click on the CC or closed captioning button, in parentheses, turn on live captions. Captioning should show up at the bottom of your screen. A good best practice is to let attendees know that the captioning is available, and just know that it is auto captioning, so it's not perfect. If audio or Wi-Fi connections are bad, the captioning can be affected.
The last feature we want to reference under the More actions is the ability to record your meeting. While this is a great feature to have for some group meetings, this really wouldn't apply to your individual participant meetings that you're hosting, given the data privacy practice considerations we need to pay attention to. If you're trying to record a team meeting or group strategic meeting, a best practice would be to put that information in the meeting invite or notice. It is also good to remind people before starting the meeting that the meeting is being recorded. That way, people can be conscious of this if they're sharing something verbally or via screen share that they prefer maybe isn't in a recording. If you use the record feature, once you have completed your meeting, you will get a notice about that recording and when it's ready. The recording will show up in the chat and the invitation for the meeting. You will also receive an email notice indicating the video is available in Microsoft Streams with a link to access it. When you click on the Microsoft Streams link, the file can be downloaded and saved to your computer if you would like.
We know we've taught you a number of different things about Microsoft Teams and the features and suggested different types of meeting practices today to help you enhance your ability to run virtual meetings and feel more comfortable as a host. And we certainly recognize that the best way to learn and become more competent is running virtual meetings is to practice. So we encourage you to set up some sessions with your colleagues to use these features and practice how they all work. We know you all bring a lot of great counseling and teaming skills to every meeting, and we hope these additional technical tips and resources will help you feel more confident providing services and setting up meetings in this virtual world.
As a last item, we wanted to provide some additional resources for you to learn more about Teams, tips and tricks for better meetings, and the resources VRS has provided internally on Microsoft Teams as a platform. So please feel free to check these out. This PowerPoint will be available on SharePoint, so you will have the ability to click on these links to directly access this information.
Thank you very much for watching. Happy virtual meetings!